It was the night before New Year's Eve in the quiet suburban Setagaya neighborhood of Tokyo, Japan. Families were preparing for a new year filled with hope, peace, and happiness. Streets were calm, homes lit up with the warmth of family gatherings. But for the Miyazawa family, that night would bring none of these things. Instead of joy, their home would become the scene of one of Japan's most chilling and unsolved mysteries. At dawn on December 31, 2000, a discovery so horrific was made that it would forever scar the quiet streets of Setagaya. In their own home, 4 members of the Miyazawa family lay brutally murdered. A crime drenched in blood, confusion, and unanswered questions. A crime that would haunt not just their neighborhood, but an entire nation. Mikio Miyazawa was a 44-year-old father who worked in marketing. His wife Yasuko was a teacher. Together they were raising their 2 children, Nina and Rei, just 8 and 6 years old. A family like any other, with dreams for the future and hopes for the new millennium. But those dreams were shattered in a way that defies understanding. Mikio was the first to be attacked. He fought desperately for his life, but he was overpowered, stabbed multiple times in what must have been a terrifying struggle. The killer then turned his attention to Yasuko and Nina, murdering them with a chilling precision that suggests this wasn't a random act of violence. 6-year-old Rei, helpless and asleep in his bed, was the last to die. His life snuffed out before he even had a chance to understand what was happening. What could drive someone to carry out such an unspeakable act? Was this a calculated assassination? A random killing? Or something far more personal, something darker? And this is where the story takes an even more disturbing turn. After committing these brutal murders, the killer didn't flee into the night as you might expect. No, he stayed for hours. Evidence suggests he lingered inside the house as if he felt comfortable there, as if this house of horrors had become his sanctuary. He opened their fridge, eating ice cream and drinking tea as if nothing had happened. He used their bathroom without even bothering to flush. And perhaps, most bizarrely, he used the family's computer to browse the internet. He spent time online as if he had nothing to fear, as if he knew no one would come for him. Who was this person, so brazen that he stayed for hours, unfazed by the gruesome scene he'd left behind? What kind of mind could commit such atrocities and then calmly surf the web? The evidence left behind by this killer raised more questions than it answered. Blood, fingerprints, even his clothing were found at the scene. The killer left behind so much physical evidence that it seemed impossible he wouldn't be caught. Yet despite having his DNA and fingerprints in their possession, authorities have been unable to identify him. It's as though he simply doesn't exist in any database. Experts analyzed what little they could from his DNA profile and concluded that this killer was not of pure Japanese descent. Traces of DNA suggested a mix of East Asian and European ancestry, a detail that only deepens the mystery further. Who was this outsider? And why would he target the Miyazawa family so ruthlessly? Was there something about them we still don't know? Some details hint at something larger, perhaps even more sinister than a lone psychopath. Sand found on the killer's clothing was traced back to the Korean peninsula, but how it got there remains an enigma to this day. Was this killer a foreigner, an assassin hired from outside Japan? Or perhaps just a disturbed drifter with an unknown connection to the Miyazawa family? Some theorists believe organized crime may have been involved, possibly foreign criminal organizations with international ties. Could Mikio or Yasuko have unknowingly crossed paths with someone dangerous? Or could this have been something darker still, a ritualistic killing meant to send some kind of message? The brutality and indifference shown by the killer raised chilling possibilities that we may never fully understand. In Japan today, this case remains open, with police actively investigating for over 2 decades. More than 5,000 pieces of evidence have been gathered over these years. Yet there is still no suspect in custody. Thousands of leads have been followed only to end in dead ends and frustration. How can someone leave behind so much evidence and yet remain completely untraceable? Every detail defies logic, from the killer's apparent disregard for being caught to the personal items he left behind. It all seems to mock justice itself. And here's perhaps the most haunting question. What if this killer is still out there, living quietly among us, blending into society with his dark secret buried deep inside him? What if he walks among us unnoticed, his monstrous actions forever hidden beneath an ordinary facade? The Setagaya family murders are more than just an unsolved case. They're a chilling reminder that darkness can hide within ordinary life. For over 2 decades now, relatives and neighbors have lived with unanswered questions, haunted by what happened that night inside that quiet suburban home. And until justice is served, if ever, The shadows of Setagaya will continue to haunt Japan, casting doubt on our sense of safety, reminding us all that some mysteries may never be solved. Please let us know if you think the Setagaya murders will ever be solved. Will the killer be brought to justice? If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please like and subscribe for more mysteries, myths, and magic.